In this video, we'll hear from Professor Natasha Heller, who teaches at the University of Virginia. Natasha is a scholar of Chinese Buddhism whose research spans the pre-modern period up to the contemporary day. She's the author of a book on an eminent monk of the Yuan dynasty called Illusory Abiding, the Cultural Construction of the Chan Monk Zhongfang Mingban. And she's now working on a book project on children's literature, children's picture books in Buddhist organizations published by Buddhist organizations in Taiwan, and how children's fiction teaches young people about Buddhist traditions. Today, we'll hear from Natasha about why we should be on Twitter as academics, about how Twitter can help us present ourselves to different audiences as scholars or teachers, and about what we can learn from being on Twitter.
I'm Natasha Heller, and I'm an associate professor of Chinese religions at the University of Virginia. I'm going to take a few minutes today to talk about using Twitter as an academic. To begin with, why should you be on Twitter? Why might you want to be? Not everyone desires a social media presence, but since you're watching this video, you probably have at least some passing interest in it. Social media turns out to be really good for learning about job announcements, calls for papers, conferences, talks, and new publications. Social media is not exactly public-facing scholarship, but it will allow you to think about how to present yourself to different audiences, especially outside of your own specialization. Now, if you're familiar with Facebook, Twitter does something a bit different. In my view, Facebook promotes connections between people who already know each other, either socially or through a shared field of study, expressed through Facebook groups. There's no limit to how much you can write in a post, making it possible to create long, essay-like notes in Facebook. Twitter, on the other hand, is based on forcing people to communicate concisely. And for this reason, it's sometimes called microblogging. The way Twitter is structured also allows you to follow people who work on topics that are a degree or two removed from your own focus, or in entirely different fields. This means you can create what is often called a personal learning network, making Twitter a particularly good way to learn about new topics. For example, I've tried to follow people I know are innovative teachers. When classes moved online in spring 2020, retweets led me to follow people who had been working in online education for a long time, like Karen Costa. Similarly, tweets by interesting people have led me to books I might not have known about otherwise. This kind of personal learning network works for a lot of subfields. If you can find one scholar in a field you are interested in on Twitter, you'll soon be able to follow many more. Some of them may also follow you back. Speaking from personal experience, I've had accounts on both Facebook and Twitter, and I find I've learned more from Twitter. So how do you get started? The first thing you'll need is an account, and with it, a Twitter handle. Some people try to be anonymous on Twitter or use handles that are descriptive or different from their real names. However, if you are intending to use Twitter as a scholar, you want people to be able to find you and to connect your Twitter handle with your name. Remember, too, that what seems like a clever idea right now may be less appealing in a few years. Depending on how common your name is, you may have to use some variation of your name and initials, but avoid having long strings of numbers at the end. It makes your Twitter handle look like it belongs to a bot. If your name doesn't clearly identify you, you can use your bio to do so, which is where you could put a link to your academic webpage if you have one. So there's a lot of concerns about bots and trolls on Twitter, and one thing you can do proactively is to look at the profile of anyone who follows you. It doesn't take that long, and there's nothing wrong with preemptively blocking accounts, especially those that look fake. And you can tell these fake people because they've joined in the present month, they have profile photos that look like stock images, they may have really vague bios and 0 followers. So once you've got to that point, what are some good practices for using Twitter? A lot of people include in their bio a line to the effect that their views are their own or that retweets do not equal endorsement. I don't think this will protect you if you post something inflammatory or offensive, and the earlier you are in your career, the more cautious you want to be. You'll also have to consider for yourselves what you want to tweet outside of your academic interests, but I would recommend being deliberate about it. As Ellen Milberger points out in this useful thread, it's often helpful to observe for a while and watch how others respond and interact on Twitter. And as she says, tweet about what you know best. Also, observe how people use hashtags to link together conversations. Some of the most common posts on Twitter are notices of new books or of interesting resources. It is a good way of announcing your own publications, or perhaps even better, of highlighting publications of others. If you've read a great article in a small journal, tweeting about it can bring it a larger audience. For all of these, it is courteous and good citation practice to include a link where the article can be read or downloaded or a book purchased. And if you use an image from an online database or a museum, adding a link is good citation practice too, as you can see here. Also, pay attention to whom you follow and who you retweet. Twitter can amplify the same voices that get the most attention in real life, but it can also be a space where you can monitor your own reading and recommendation habits. So what can you do with Twitter? Twitter can be a very good way of getting reading suggestions from a wide range of people, or a response to specific queries, especially those outside your own specialization. People sometimes live tweet events, which give those unable to attend a window into discussions. This can be a good way to pay attention to presentations and to practice summarizing in the moment. However, you need to make sure that it is okay with the presenter, especially if the talk is not being recorded. There are lots of reasons for this. Not everyone wants a new work tweeted about, and some topics are more likely to elicit harassment or attacks on social media. Some scholars use Twitter as part of their courses, either by writing tweet threads about the week's assignments or by pointing students to related resources. In this case, you would want to use a course-specific hashtag to connect these types of tweets. I've also seen Twitter used as a way for graduate students to post about books they are reading for class, in a way that provides a useful summary for someone unfamiliar with the book, but also probably helps the reader themselves consolidate their own understanding of the author's major arguments. For myself, I've used Twitter as a way to explore topics. For example, in March 2019, I decided to post one article a day by a woman scholar about women's history in China as a way of commemorating Women's History Month. This ended up being something of a mini research project, but I learned a lot and could actually draw on this to create a syllabus. I did something similar, but shorter, with early women scholars of Buddhism. In sum, communicating about a topic on Twitter forces you to compress your ideas and may prompt you to consider how images or GIFs can be used in creative ways in scholarly contexts. These are good ways to stretch your thinking and writing skills. This, of course, is in addition to the kinds of connections and networking you can do through social media more generally. And finally, when you are giving talks and presentations, you can add your Twitter handle, as I've done here, so people can keep in touch afterwards. Some parting advice. Twitter can be a tempting form of procrastination, so I use an app to limit my time there when I'm supposed to be doing something else. It's also okay to take long breaks from Twitter if you need to place your attention elsewhere. Thanks for listening, and I hope to see you on Twitter.